Okay, we are going over Geometry Chapter 2 review. The first question, I can see that the numbers are getting smaller by dividing in half each time. So the correct answer for number 1 is going to be C. 0.0625 divided by 2 is 0.3125. Number 2, okay, a concave polygon is the given, and it can be regular or irregular. The answer is A. It's false, because to be concave, the angles cannot be congruent. Concave, if you remember, is when some of the angles kind of almost like go in on the shape. It's where if we draw a line, we would end up hitting if we continued this side, we would end up hitting the interior of the shape. So the correct answer there is A. Number 3, the correct answer is A, B, C, and C. Angle A, B, C, and CBE are coplanar. So the question is, are they vertical angles? And the answer is C. No, they're not necessarily vertical, because one angle might be inside the other. So for instance, if I have A, B, C, could have line D, ray DB there, and ray there. So DBE is inside A, B, C. So the correct answer, I said, was C. Number 4. Correct answer is D. Two angles measuring 90 are complementary. If the two angles measure 90, then their angles are complementary. They want it as if then. So since they give us the two angles are 90, they measure 90, then they are complementary. Number 5, they want us to write the converse. Two segments having the same measure are congruent. So the converse is when we put the second part first and the first part second. So if two segments are congruent, then they have the same measure, and that is true. Two segments having the same measure are congruent. So if two segments are congruent, then they have the same measure. 6, the answer is C. They're asking us to write the inverse of the conditional statement and determine whether the inverse is true or false. An equilateral triangle has 3 congruent sides. A non-equilateral triangle does not have 3 congruent sides. So not and not, this is the converse, and that converse is true. Number 7. Again, the correct answer is C. We're asked to write the contrapositive of the conditional statement, determine whether the contrapositive is true. Two angles measuring 180 degrees are not supplementary. So if two not supplementary angles are not two angles measuring 180 degrees, that is also true. To do the contrapositive, we flip the conclusion and the hypothesis and negate both of them. Number 8, two segments have the same measure. If two segments have the same measure, they are congruent. The two segments are congruent. So tell whether 3 follows 1 and 2. In this case, the answer is yes. It's the law of detachment. Two segments have the same measure, and if they have the same measure, they are congruent. And two segments are congruent. We're only dealing with 2 things here. Basically, 2 segments are congruent. They have the same measure. It is C. 9, the answer was A. We're told lines AD and DC intersect at point, oops, pressed something wrong there. Hold on. They intersect at point D. And the correct answer is A. If 2 lines intersect, their intersection is exactly 1 point, and that's what they're saying. AD and DC intersect. Okay? The postulate for number 10 is also A. Points A, C, and F. A, C, and F line on point P and that is a postulate where through any 3 points not on the same line, A, C, and F are not on the same line, there is exactly one plane. Okay, most of these are fairly simple, so I'm going to stop this recording, put this on YouTube, and then do the next grouping.